It's good. What a win. Wow, that was exciting. That was relieving at the end of it. We almost let one slip away, but we managed to still hold in and get a huge win, obviously, today, winning the home opener against a division rival, going to 2-0 in the division and 2-1 on the season. What a great win for the Eagles. And I think I can finally breathe a little bit easier because it was really touch and go there for a while. There's really a lot to break down in this game, especially the defense held on beautifully in a way that, especially in the way this game played out, they were banged up, they were depleted in the secondary, and that started showing really in the fourth quarter, but we still managed to find a way to hold on, win the game, and a lot of credit to go around. Obviously, some duds as well, but and probably really no question who my number one stud's going to be, but we'll save that for a moment.
So let's go ahead and start with our studs and duds for week 3. I'm going to go ahead and start with the duds this week since they won. We'll go ahead and start with the bad and then end with the good since it was a win. With the duds, I wanted to keep them off this list. I really did. After some early play calling that I thought was really poor, for starters, starting out the game with a 1st and 10 pass that ended up in a sack and immediately put you in a bad situation. Aside from some of those early play calls, after, probably from the second quarter on, I really couldn't disagree with the way Doug called the game. But he ends up on this duds list for probably one of the worst coaching decisions I've ever seen made in a game, and that's going for it on 4th and 8 towards the end of the first half, where the Giants offense had been doing nothing up to that point. And I really think at that point, you're up 7-0. You've got the ball around midfield, punt the ball, pin them deep, put them like maybe at the 10-yard line. In the worst case scenario, it's probably a touchback and it comes out to the 20. Best case scenario, you've got them pinned inside the 10, but say they do end up on the 10-yard line. They've got to go 90 yards in 2 minutes in a situation where their offense hasn't really been able to move the ball at all. So it really doesn't seem to make any sense there to go for it and risk that, because then you don't make it. Matter of fact, you give up a sack, so you make the loss even worse. And then what ends up happening is that gives the Giants offense a little momentum, and they end up driving down. Now, a couple things bailed him out. First off, Bob McAdoo's just stupid play calling down by the goal line and not trying to run it a couple times. But then, a rule that basically ruled what should have been a catch. Obviously, by rule, it's not a catch, but everyone who's watching that game would tell you it was probably a catch. And then that doesn't result in a touchdown. And then the defense bails them out by making the big stop on 4th and inches. So all those things ended up bailing them out, but it really, I think, sort of gave their offense a little momentum, and that sort of ended up, I think, dictating some of the second half then. And I think the Giants' offense ended up having a lot more momentum in that second half and felt a lot better about themselves in that second half because they got going a little bit in the end of the first half because of that stupid play call there. Or I shouldn't say play call, I guess I should say a stupid strategic decision. The next dud is going to be, well, not necessarily special teams as a whole, but the special teams on this particular play that I'm looking at. I really think that the review booth got this wrong. I think that no one had ever touched the ball while they were in the end zone. But the simple fact of the matter is the Keystone Cop 3 guys here that you see standing here, they're the ones that all bounced into each other and created the problem in the first place. If they would have just done their job and just allowed one guy to down the ball instead of all trying to make a play, it wouldn't have even been an issue, and they would have down the ball like the 1 or 2 yard line. So I know it's one play, but it was a stupid play that could have really cost us early, and it really irked me the way that this went, both from the review standpoint, but really the fact that it should have never been an issue in the first place. From there, I've got to go with my number 2 dud for the game, Malcolm Jenkins. Now, Malcolm Jenkins, I was considering putting him on my studs list at the end of the first half because he made a huge stop on a 3rd down early in the game that I think really sort of set the tone for the defense that day and basically showing the Giants that they weren't going to be able to run the ball on us. But that penalty that he made with the pass interference call against Odell Beckham Jr. on a play that I wasn't sure Odell Beckham Jr. was going to necessarily be able to make that catch. And even if he does, you're ending up in the same situation, but you gave them that easy yardage. And it really could have ended up becoming a problem for us because that put them in field goal range and really sort of could have ended up costing us the game had we not come back. So for that reason, I know it's one play, But really, he's got to end up on this duds list for that. And another person that ends up number one on the duds list because of one play is Zach Ertz. The fumble was crucial. We had all the momentum going for most of the game. The fourth quarter starts. They get a touchdown, so they get a little bit going on their side. If we have any sort of a drive there, it could sort of kill any potential momentum they've got. Instead, what happens? He fumbles the ball, gives it right back to the Giants, and they're able to score right away. So it really caused problems for us. And because of that, he's got to end up on the duds list. As a result, Zach Ertz, he's been on my studs list the last couple of games, but on this one, I think he's got to end up on the duds list. Moving on now to the studs, and I'm going to do these in reverse order as well. So starting with number 6, I've got 6 studs for this game. Number 6 is going to be Carson Wentz. And you see his statistics there. They're not that exciting. They don't really jump out at you. They didn't get any really long completions. Although I think that's a little misleading because they did have the 2 pass interference calls that were deep balls. So that doesn't reflect in Carson Wentz stats, but certainly they were passes that were attempted that really sort of set a tone. But the real key stat for me for Carson Wentz is the 0 turnovers, and that had been a problem the last 2 weeks. Hadn't cost us in the Washington game, but did cost us in the Chiefs game. So going out there, not throwing any picks, not fumbling the ball at all, I think was really critical and was real important for us to have a good, clean game for Carson Wentz. Like I said, going into this game, I thought we had to play, if we played mistake-free football, I thought we were going to win. And for the most part, we did that, except for a couple of stupid plays, which I already addressed. But Carson Wentz played a solid game in the sense that he didn't make any mistakes. And lots of times in these kind of games where it ends up being, sort of a strange game where the defense is doing a lot and there's some late playmaking by the offense. You just want your quarterback not to screw things up early and allow you to be in a position to win the game late, and that's exactly what he did, so that's exactly what we needed. Moving on to the next stud, and that's Rasul Douglas. And really, he ended up playing, I think, a really good game considering how banged up our secondary was. He had the key interception in the first half that sort of, I think, sort of made Eli a little less likely to try and really test our secondary, which was, I think, really important, especially the deep ball. So I think Rasul Douglas really sort of stepped up and played another really good game for a rookie. He's been doing everything we could really ask him to do. Certainly were there some bad plays, sure, but for the most part, I think he held his own, and that's really all you can ask a rookie cornerback to do in these kind of situations, especially going up against the caliber of wide receivers that the Giants have. For the next guy, I'm going to put Vinny Curry, and if for no other reason, just for that one huge play he made right before the half. He blew up that offensive line on that 4th and inches and really sort of stuffed that run before it really even started and just absolutely took that play over. And for that reason, Vinny Curry clearly ended up being a real stud for this game and coming up with a huge play for us. For my number 3, it's going to be Michael Kendricks, and I've been real critical of Michael Kendricks over the years, but, this year he's played pretty well for us. He had the tip ball that led to the 2nd interception. He ended up making some really nice tackles for losses. He was in the right position on the field to make plays when we really needed him, and, really, like I said, I've been critical of him, but really I think this year he has really stepped up his game. Maybe it's because now he's a little more comfortable with the defense that Jim Schwartz has put in place. But I really have to take my hat off to Michael Kendricks. He's really, I think, played well in the first few games, and especially today, I think he played real well. Moving on then to number 2, and that's the whole running back committee. Really, and that's what it was. It was a running back by committee. You can see no one was over 71 yards. 2 guys ended up in the end zone for touchdowns. The total for all 4 backs was 33 carries for 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. They also had 1 reception for 9 yards. So really, the running backs played really well today, really showed up. The running game as a whole went well. Like I said, I really like the way Doug ended up calling probably the last 3 quarters of this game. And a lot was working, and it shows that if you stay committed to the run early, you end up getting some that break for big gains later. And I think really just staying committed to the run was key to this game. It wasn't real exciting. There was no real big plays made by our offense, but really that's what we needed to do. We controlled the ball, we controlled the clock, and I think that really also helped our defense, which was so banged up as well. So for that reason, the running backs as a whole, I'm going to go ahead and list as my second stud. The number one stud, though, really, is there any question? In a game where it comes down to a franchise-long field goal to win a game, I'm not one that's a real big fan of kickers, but my hat's off to Jake Elliott as a rookie kicker, kicking a 61-yard field goal on the last play of the game to win. It really was something, and it just was an exciting play, and all around just was an amazing game. And you really have to give Jake Elliott a lot of credit. He ended up really coming through in the clutch. He missed a field goal early, but it was a longer field goal, so I'd let that one pass, unlike last week when he missed the chip shot. But he really came through today with the huge kick at the end of the game, and for that reason, Jake Elliott, you're my number one stud of the week. And it's not very often that you're going to see a kicker that high on the studs list, but this week, if anybody deserves it, and if there's any week where a kicker deserves it, it's this week.
So there you have it. Those are my studs and duds for the week. And let me know what you think. Am I out of my mind putting a kicker as the number one stud of the game? But when you win a game like that, I think you've got to give the guy credit. And that's certainly what I think he deserves in this game. But leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I'll go ahead and check in and give you my prediction for the Chargers game next week beforehand. Until then, fly, Eagles, fly.